Hello and welcome to our third and final video. Today is the one that you've been waiting for, so make sure you have your notebook and a pen. Press pause if you need to go and get it. Today's workshop, we're going to be guiding you through what to do while you're taking that time out. What to do when you're letting yourself go to bed angry, as I say. A lot of people think that idea of taking this time out is just about to get cooled down. And while that may or may not be a necessary part in your relationship exactly, this other piece I think really gets overlooked that I think is really the key ingredient of what needs to be happening in this time out space, which is that you are taking full responsibility for what you need and what you want. Let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. I think that one of the things that really keeps this cycle and this dance going is that often we're not even trying to necessarily get to this place of here's the exact resolution that I'm looking for. I think a lot of this intensity of this fight sometimes is that partners are wanting the other person to really understand, support, and validate why we feel the way we feel. And while I completely get that, and I've been there as well, I think in some ways we could do ourselves a favor and our partner an incredible favor if we could truly just allow ourselves to take a step back and get clear on what you need to be happy in this situation really. What would it take for you to feel good and in alignment of your truth in this moment? And when we can figure that out, then we can return to that conversation with our partner in a completely different and 1,000 times way more productive way. But so much of the time what happens is we get into this place of almost like agony and overwhelm because our partners don't really seem to understand why we want what we want or why it is that what they're doing is upsetting us or the situation at hand is upsetting us. And we get caught in this place where we end up feeling really misunderstood. And then the whole fight becomes about, I want them to understand where I'm coming from. And when we really look at that, when we're really needing someone to understand where it is that we're coming from, what that actually means is that I'm needing a sense of validation here. And while I completely get that, I think the way more important question is, can you validate yourself? Can you take full responsibility for you want what you want and you need what you need? Because until you make peace with that, you're either going to make compromises that you're actually not okay with, or you're going to make huge demands that you're not even necessarily fully needing or committed to either. Because in either one of these scenarios, you're not operating from a place of solid ground. You're operating from a place of panic and upset. And I think that this kind of ties into this myth that we have about relationships, that if somebody really loves us, if it's truly safe for us to be in relationship with our partner, then they're going to totally get behind whatever it is that we need, and they're totally going to understand what that's about for us. And I think it's this myth where we basically have kind of been sold this idea that if my partner loves me, he's essentially going to take responsibility for taking care of my needs really well, and I'm going to take responsibility for taking care of his needs really well. And that's a beautiful idea. But the reality is that we're all just kind of human, and we're all going to really miss that mark a lot. And if you don't believe me that that's true and you need a little more proof, I want you to just think about, what is your partner's favorite hobby? What is those hobbies that they do and they absolutely adore it, but you kind of think it's stupid or boring or weird? I don't know about you, but my guy is really into science, watches a lot of videos on that stuff. I'm bored most of the time, so I go and do something else. But by concept of this model that this bogus model that we've been sold about relationships, we're basically saying if I really love my partner, I'm supposed to be just excited about the science video as he is. And that is what we essentially are walking into conflict with our partners with all the time without even realizing it. If they loved me, they would fully get this and support this. How about if you loved you, you would fully back it and support it without needing to chase, convince, persuade anybody else to agree that you have the right to feel what you feel and you have the right to need what you need. Because when we're not settled with that, we go to either trying to talk ourselves out of it, which I see from people all the time. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe, I'm making too big a deal about this. Maybe other people would be fine and somehow I'm just being really high maintenance or demanding. Or, we kind of armor up, it's the other extreme of this. And it's like we start really making the bar high, start really making demands that sometimes we're not even wanting that thing. We just want this sense of safety in our relationships. So what would this look like when you think about the scenario in your life right now, this thing that you've been fighting about? What do you need really that would make that scenario feel better for you? This thing that you've been fighting about, this thing that's been causing conflict. What do you need in that situation to feel okay? What would that look like for you? Take a moment and write that down. And I know that so often when I talk to people, for instance, I was talking to a woman and she was saying to me how what she really wanted from her partner was more support. Perfect. That makes sense. And when I said to her, so what would more support look like? She didn't know. And that actually comes up all the time in my conversations with people. We become very comfortable and very familiar, right? We could spend days and weeks talking about what it is that we don't want from our partners, what it is that we don't like that they're doing. But oftentimes when it gets into this place of really what do you need instead, what would you want that to look like instead really? A lot of times we are way, way more fuzzy on that. So take a moment and get really clear, because this is where you're going to do yourself and your partner a really big favor, because then you're able to come back into the scene with a solid sense of what you're asking for really, of what you need from them really. And when you have that, then you're going to be able to make this a whole lot more productive and a whole lot more easy. Because I've come to believe that when we get into this place of this kind of pursue and withdrawal, right, this pursue and chase and shut down or push back kind of dance that we get into, I think that shut down or push back is happening for one of two reasons. Either he does not or they do not know what to offer you in this moment really, and they're totally confused. Or you've told them, here's what I want from you, but it's so foreign to them that they don't actually believe that it'll work. And I'll give you an example of that. I was talking to a couple clients of mine in session, and she was talking about what she needed from him was for him to just sit with her when she was upset and crying and in pain. And when we talked about what would happen instead in those moments, he would kind of literally distance from her sometimes. Sometimes he'd change the topic, sometimes he'd leave the room, sometimes she would just feel him pull away. And when I actually explored that with them, what he was able to identify is that it was so hard for him to see her in pain. That what he would do is he would kind of like get into this place of racking his brain about what to offer her or how to make it better. And we know that sometimes there's just some situations where it's not that you need anything exactly other than to just be there with you. And this is really what she began to describe to him, that she just needed him to sit there. And I could tell it wasn't landing for him exactly, so I kind of just walked him through that a little bit more. That he just didn't really need to do anything but sit there. And he was able to say, is that you're telling me that when my wife is on fire, when I am seeing her burst up in flames, that I am just supposed to sit there and watch her burn. And she had turned to him and she had said, yes, but when you go off looking for solutions or trying to strategize stuff, or you just can't be there, then I am left alone. And that was so powerful to just kind of see that play out. Because I think that that is often what I've seen happen in my couples so often, that each person has really good intentions of how they want to be there for the other person, of the kind of partner that they want to be able to be, of how happy they want their partner to be in this life. But there's just all of the stuff that sometimes hijacks us and makes that stuff so difficult, which is why I really started with what I started with in the first video, which is this fight is not your biggest problem. The real war here, the real battle here, is changing how you and your partner do conflict. So the next piece is that you've taken a lot of bits and pieces out of this. You're going to have these videos that you can go back and watch anytime you need to. But information without action is not going to go very far, and it's not going to get you the shifts that you want to do. So write down right now what it is that you're going to do to hold yourself accountable and to really give yourself some time and space to get clear on this question of what do you need to be okay in this situation really? What do you need to feel good in this situation that's bothering you and upsetting you? What do you need? And how can you let yourself honor that and hang on to that? Because here's what I know. We can try to talk ourselves out of what we want all day long. We can try to make ourselves wrong for feeling the way that we feel or wanting what we want. But that stuff is just going to come back, which is why these fights keep coming back, right? So instead, start to do something very different here. What would this look like if you took 100% responsibility for taking care of yourself and treating your own needs like they matter? Because when you start to do that, I guarantee that your dynamic with your partner is going to shift. And if you would like to continue to get a bit more support from me as you're working your way through that, then you know how to find me. You can connect with me at lovelostproject.com or aprilboyd.ca, and I'd be happy to share with you maybe a few more ideas that are going to help you get where you need to go. So good luck with things, and thank you for sharing this time with me. I'd love to hear what stood out to you. Take care.